Dr. Fine, Dr. Frager.
You found Let's Talk with Dr. Stan Frager, your life coach. Dr. Stan Frager is standing by to give you insight on issues that matter most to you. Call now, 571-2428. That's 571-2428 on 970 WGTK.
All right, always nice to have you with us. We had a wild first hour with Joey Pantoliano.
Joey Pants. He's a hard act to follow. He's been a fan for a long time. That was pretty cool.
I know. And he did leave some tickets for us. So for our next caller, we have two $35 tickets, $70 worth of tickets for the showing tomorrow night of No Kidding Me 2 that Joey put together. And it's at the Clifton Center, Frankfurt and Payne. And it's in Crescent Hills. And it benefits Bridgehaven. So we'll just give that to our next caller. 571-2428. 571-2428. The lines are open. We do welcome your calls. Meanwhile, talking with Dr. Eli Karam. Dr. Karam is president-elect of Kentucky Association of Marriage Family Therapists and a professor at the University of Louisville and sees patients, as I do, for marriage and family. We were talking about a number of things. The first is that financial. I started to say to folks that the books try and tell us it's communication, but boy, I'll tell you what, I see more couples and have to help them repair their marriage over financial issues than I do just about anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, money, a big problem if you don't know how to talk about it. So it's how to communicate around all of these type of content areas we're talking about tonight. A few other things before we leave that, though. Along with the debt tolerance that we were talking about before the break is also risk tolerance. If you are a risky person, you want to put all your money in the markets or a property investment, and you have a partner that is all about depositing their check into the bank account, or maybe they have a CD, but they are very safe in their financial investments, that is something that could be a potential area for problems. You want to have a definite conversation, and if you have a high risk tolerance, you should find someone with a similarly high tolerance for making risky investments. I would like to also say one thing we coach couples in when they start to merge their bank accounts is how to check in with their partner before making a major purchase. And I know my wife and I used to have the $100 rule. If you're going to go out and spend $100, Eli, you need to give me a call and vice versa. And that would help, especially early on in our relationship, because there's things I'd spend on before as a single man that when I was married, probably wasn't a good fit to go and blow $100 on CDs or music because I was, thinking about my relationship. But if you're into making a bunch of purchases and your partner doesn't find out about them till they get the credit card bill or the bank statement, we could really run into some problems. So you want to have whatever the dollar amount or code is with your partner to make sure you're really checking in with them before you go out and buy something big or a bunch of small purchases that can add up over time.
All right. Again, the lines are open. We welcome your calls, 571-2428. And so we don't want to start off a marriage with people in debt. I deliberately waited a long time to get married because I was in school full time, and I always felt I didn't want to get married and start off struggling financially. And it was definitely deliberate that the idea of trying to be in graduate school and struggling with issues of money, and then how would I deal with all that, and deliberately waited till I was considerably older before I ever got married.
And, we see this trend now in people delaying marriage. And maybe that's not such a bad thing to get established professionally first. And that's another talk you have with your partner. I know for me, one reason I was able to finish my PhD is my wife worked very hard, and kind of so did I. But her financing my education and working to help make ends meet while I was going through that was a big help. So you have to have a talk with your partner who puts whose career on hold so that you can get the schooling you need, especially if you meet young. And a lot of people, especially in this economy, are finding themselves going back to school. So you need your partner to be on board with that, or how much money it's going to take to support your education or career, and how you'll shift your career while your partner is doing that, for sure.
And what about not only just establishing ourselves professionally, but how we're going to pay off debts that we may have inherited? I'm thinking today, in today's college environment with tuitions going up dramatically, it's not uncommon for someone to come out of school owing $100,000, $200,000. If you went to medical school, you could come out owing $200,000 or $300,000.
No, it's scary. It's scary to think about that.
And you need to think about that when you're getting married and talk about it. Again, we're talking about those things we need to talk to each other ahead of time.
Yes, you have to assume, and you have to ask your partner, and again, hopefully it's transparent, what the debt is or what you're taking on when you get married to this partner. Because unless you have some type of prenuptial agreement or some legal arrangement, you are assuming half of what your partner brings in as far as debt. So you need to know that information.
What about prenuptial agreements? Typically, one of the partners says, "Don't you trust me?"
Right.
Of course. Are we getting married forever, for life? And prenuptial agreements seem to be a very delicate issue to bring up.
Very delicate, but necessary in some relationships where one person is entering with a significant amount more assets than the other person. I'll see this a lot in my practice in remarriages, especially when, as I said, somebody has a lot and the other person does not. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't like to get involved in that, but I understand it creates a inherent difference in kind of power and hierarchy in the relationship, and it's something that is kind of always there. And every time we see something in the media like Tiger Woods and what he's going through, we're reminded about such arrangements. But certainly I don't think it's necessarily a healthy thing to dwell on when you're focusing on all these good things that you need to do as far as communication and building intimacy as you start your married life.
And again, folks are asking questions about, are they professionally established? And one of the issues that comes up, should we both work full time? Very often, one of the partners says maybe the other one can carry the load.
Right. And these are these other assumptions or expectations around marriage that need to make clear. I'll share an example from a session I had last week. It was a premarital couple, and the gentleman said, once I get my business going, I want to make sure that you don't ever have to work. And, the wife sits there and rolls her eyes, and she was waiting, the fiance. And she said, don't you know, I want to work. So he came from a model of marriage that was really traditional gender roles. And he assumed, his assumption was that if he could have a good enough job, work hard enough, and his wife didn't have to work, she wouldn't want to. But she did. She had gone to school, and she wanted to be an accomplished, professional herself. So, it was good to get that expectation on the table and make sure. And this is what I was saying earlier. You generally want to marry someone that has the same model of marriage you do, i.e., if you come from a traditional family and that is important to you, you should find someone else that espouses those same values. Because if you don't, you might have a difficulty later on. And many women, especially, just because they want to be mothers and prioritize that so highly, it doesn't mean they don't want to go back to work. But there's other women, if they had the choice, they would certainly love a traditional model too. So it's a talk you need to have. And you also have to, especially in this economy where people have lost jobs all the time, what are you willing to do for your partner? Even if you're one of those people that says, I'd like to stay home and raise a family. If your spouse loses their job, are you willing to go back? Sometimes it's not a choice. Sometimes you have to. But those are important discussions to have before you get married.
And our guest tonight is Dr. Eli Karam, professor at the University of Louisville's Kent School of Social Work. And I'm psychologist Dr. Stan Frager. And as I told Dr. Karam, I'm also licensed in California as a marriage, family, and child therapist. I always keep that as my parachute. If people in Louisville ever treat me badly, I'm going back to California.
That's right.
I'm hitting the road to California.
You've been here a long time. Louisville loves you, Dr. Stan.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. And we'll be right back. And again, our lines are open, 571-2428. Put